Everyone knows pho, but Bún Riêu is the lesser known, some would say more tasty cousin. Our friend Nancy makes her own modified version of this soup at home.
This is already so good without it.
I want you to be addicted to it.
And once we tried it, we knew we had to show people how it gets made.
You know what? Like a lot of recipes and a lot of people will say that, oh, I learned this recipe from my mother and it's like such a wholesome story. That's not my story. I learned this recipe actually from an ex-boyfriend. So over the years, I altered it like to my own taste and I've been feeding other men since. So I speak with a northern dialect. I would say Bún Riêu. The majority of people will say Bún Riêu, which is a more southern accent. It's a little bit more meat-based versus in Vietnam, it's more seafood-based. The authentic one uses freshwater crabs. It's a really special taste, but it's really hard to replicate here because we just don't have those ingredients. So this is close enough because we'll use this, which is crab paste. This is what's going to simulate that crabby flavor. This is called pork neck bone. This one is pork side ribs and you can cut it into small cubes and it makes for an easier eating experience because you're not dealing with a huge chunk, but both of them will give you a very clear, sweet tasting broth. This is just regular ground pork that we're gonna use to make the patties. I also have some dried shrimp here. It gives it a bit of more of a seafood taste. So you end up getting like this really fine powder, which we can add to the patty. Some eggs to use as a binder when we make the patties. And key ingredient is this shrimp sauce. So this fermented shrimp sauce is what's also gonna add to that seafood flavor. Yeah, so we have some like tofu as well. The noodles that we're gonna use here is rice vermicelli. I like to use Roma tomatoes. I find it just gives like a sweeter flavor. Some lettuce. This is called lemon balm. Lemon balm is like incredibly hard to find. Like you're not gonna find this in a Western grocery store, but you can get away with mint as well. So I have some mint like lying around my fridge and you know, it's a good addition too. The side rib, it'll come like in a long chain like this. We wanna cut it up into like little bite-sized pieces. Oh God, I hate handling meat.
Just let the men do all the prep.
Yeah.
And I'll just arrange it, do the little cooking, and then take credit for it.
We're gonna have to parboil this. Spill out the nuts so you can cover like all the bones. We wanna bring this like to a rapid boil for 5 minutes, just so we can get all the scum and impurities to come out. We're skimming it right now because otherwise like it gets all mixed in, but this is the reason why I prefer to do this versus throw it all in an Instant Pot. It results in like a clearer broth, which in Vietnamese like noodle soup world, like a clear, clean broth is what you strive for.
Okay, that means you're legit if you can get a clear broth.
Yeah, if it's murky, like it's no good. After you skim that all off, like let's take it to wash and then we'll transfer everything into here, which is gonna be the final broth. I wash each piece.
You hand wash each piece.
I do.
So the message is, if you can't get a clear broth, you ain't shit.
I'm trying to show you, I really give a shit. Add some salt. There's no measurements, just measure with your heart. I used to take off the skin, but then I saw on a segment that they said that the skin actually gives it a really nice amber color.
So this is a cartoonishly large pot. Like it's ginormous. Do you always make it in this at this scale, or is there like a smaller version of the soup?
I'm already like doing all this, right? I might as well just make a lot. I'll give you some to take home. I'll drop some off like for my mom. This is very, very typical for Vietnamese families.
Really? Julia could probably like stand in it a little bit. It'd be like up to her knees.
I can probably bathe my child in this.
For sure.
The secret ingredient to this recipe and all Viet recipes is actually the Hennessy that you drink while you're making it, and that's what inserts the love.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just know Viets love Hennessy, but why?
I'll say that it's because of French colonization. This is colored by something called annatto seed. It's very common in Southeast Asian cooking. It gives it this very orange red look. I used to just dump it all in here, but then I find that in the pot, it gives me this thick, oily layer of like orangeness, which I don't enjoy. So I actually skim it out now. This dish originated in an area called the Red River Delta. And along the delta, there's a lot of rice paddies, and the crabs live in the rice paddies. So farmers or like, I don't know, country people would just catch them and then make this dish. So it was actually a very like, you know, a very humble meal. We have the ribs like boiling right now, and it's gonna take another like hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to get it to the point of tenderness that we want to achieve. So for example, like if you put this patty in now, it's gonna disintegrate. Same with these tomatoes. Like I think we'll wait until it's probably 80% there, then we'll put these things in so that this can maintain, you know, some texture. I still have no safe way of like ensuring this. Like every time like I make this, I'm like, oh shit, I hope this goes well. I'm not allowed to have this in my household, according to my mother-in-law, but it makes shit taste good. It's called chicken bouillon, like chicken powder. We're gonna use it. But the next thing we're gonna put is this shrimp paste. This is used a lot in Vietnamese cooking, and I can't even really handle it.
Whoa. And she says that the pot's not big, but I need a stool for this.
Let's bring this to like a low simmer, because if it's like too rapid of a boil, the things will break apart, right? Like
okay.
when we put it in.
So we are now making the little meat patties that have all those tasty ingredients that we put in. So they're kind of like meat patties, but with a very strong seafood flavor. And there's no real technique to this. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect balls. You just kind of form a ball with a spoon and drop it in. Would you say that cooking food, making food for people is a love language for you?
It's a way for me to spend time with people. It's a way for me to bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like my older brother and I like weren't that close growing up. Like we have no other form of communication. Like we don't have a lot of things in common, but it's become like a tradition for us now to get together like every Sunday. You know, like it's a nice way for us to like spend time together.
Mm-hmm.
Stop recording me putting in more chicken bouillon. That's what I don't want captured.
This is already so good without it.
Yeah, but I want you to be addicted to it. And just to like give it a little bit more of a tangy taste, I add some tamarind powder. Tamarind is a Southeast Asian fruit. An essential ingredient in Vietnamese cooking is fish sauce. If you put fish sauce into like a broth too early on, it turns sour. You only add the fish sauce like at the end, like as a finishing touch.
All right, several hours and a couple Hennessy shots later, we were in the soup endgame. Nancy loads this up with noodles, tofu, meatballs, ribs, and obviously that sweet, sweet broth. At this point, the true finishing touch was the garnish.
Hours later, and we're finally here. I don't know, Nancy doesn't think it's a lot of work. So much protein in this, crazy. It almost feels like it's multiple dishes in one because of how much variety there is. It's so flavorful. I can taste like the crab fish paste and the shrimp. That meatball, Nancy, it's like so complex in flavor. It's very unique too because it's basically like a seafood flavored meatball. And you're right, it's not too salty because once you put the vermicelli noodles in, it just like balances it all out. It's so good. So good. Look at it just falling apart. Look at that. This is love. It's just falling off. But this like fried tofu texture, and I'm like, damn, it's gonna be bland, but it's like infused with the soup flavor. Incredible.
Nancy's really downplaying this soup. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It's just like a lot of care, a lot of effort, different ingredients. It's just amazing. Everything's just made thoughtfully because the person who made it is not gonna tell you that. We're here to actually showcase that.
You have to put love into it.
And you at home can do this too.